Recently, I turned a pair of inexpensive polycotton flannel pajama bottoms that fit me well, but I didn't like because of the polyester. They were just too hot to sleep in. I turned them into a pattern to make a nicer pair of linen pajama bottoms from. And so I used a couple of YouTube resources. The first one suggested that you lay the pajama pants folded in half on a piece of paper and trace them, and then cut out 4 pieces. That was all well and good, but I wanted them to fit better, and doing the way that the first video suggested would have made them sort of an average front and back, and they were probably going to be too baggy in the front. So I took the PJs apart and traced the outline of the front and back instead, which gave me a pretty good pattern. I then made a cotton muslin mock-up, and it was a wearable mock-up, which I made some adjustments to. And so in the process, I used flat felled seams for both the inseam and the outer seams, and the crotch seams. After I got the mock-up to fit like I wanted to and finished it and wore it for a while, I made the second pair. And I cut those out after making a couple of adjustments to the paper patterns. And I put those together, sewed them together. And in these, I used a flat felled seam on the inseam, and as the first video that I had found to put them together with suggested, a French seam on the outer seam. What I discovered afterwards, that I probably could have just done what I did with the cotton muslin and put flat felled seams on all of the inseam, crotch, and outside seams, and it would have been just as easy. So that was what I would recommend, is just use flat felled seams, because they make for a neat appearance and you don't have any seam sticking out inside the pants. It's not really a problem, but it would just look neater if that outer seam was also flat felled. The one problem that I had with this pattern and with my mock-up and with the final pair was the waist area, because in the flannel pajamas the elastic was a thicker band than was called for in this particular pattern. And I had problems fitting the waistband, because when I turned the waistband in 1 inch and then turned it over again, there was the fabric wasn't fitting properly. In other words, I'd fold it over and there was too much fabric inside, and I had to eventually cut, or not cut, to make a dart for the side seams to take up the extra material. So I think that when I make this again, when I do the first fitting after I've cut the fabric out, I'll pin it up and make a taper on the top part of the fold, the fold for the waistband, and the taper will be in towards the body rather than just straight, because I think that's what the problem was. It sits on the top of the hip in such a way that the fabric just doesn't work if it's straight. It needs to be more of a conical shape, which means that it would need to taper in on the pattern. So I will try that. I'll cut probably about a 1/2 inch taper on the 2 inches that are going to fold down to the waistband and see how that works. I finished both the mock-up and the linen pair with elastic, and I put a drawstring in the cotton pair. I think I might put a drawstring in the linen pair when I redo the waistband, which I am going to do, and that just means picking it apart again and at the waistband and doing that. But I was really pleased with how they turned out, and I have found that both the cotton and the linen PJ pants are much cooler. It's taken me a little bit of time to get used to the linen fabric, because it has a quite different texture even from the cotton muslin. I think it feels a little scratchy against my skin, but it's not really that that much of a big deal because they're comfortable. Anyway, that's my experience with trying to make a pair of PJ bottoms by myself. This is really the first piece of clothing that I've put together in quite some time, so it was fun to learn how to do both French seam and a flat felled seam. I hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully next time I'll be set up so that I can take some video of the sewing process, because I really wasn't set up to do that this time. Thank you, and if you enjoyed this, subscribe. Bye!